In the dim light of a Roman villa nearly 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the known world wrestled with the same mundane demon we face every single morning, the urge to stay under the covers. Marcus Aurelius was not a god, nor was he a naturally tireless machine. He was a man burdened by the administration of a fracturing empire, the grief of losing several children, and the physical exhaustion of leading military campaigns on the Danubian frontier. Yet, despite the weight of the world on his shoulders, he understood a fundamental truth that many of us ignore. How you start your morning determines the quality of your soul for the rest of the day. For Marcus, the morning wasn't a race to check off a to-do list. It was a ritual of spiritual fortification. He viewed the dawn as a mental barracks where he prepared his mind for the inevitable battles of human ego, betrayal, and chaos. If he failed to win the battle within his own mind before sunrise, he would surely lose the battle against the world by noon. In this guide, we're going to break down the step-by-step psychological framework the philosopher King used to transform his groggy mornings into a masterclass in resilience and clarity. Whether you're leading an empire or just trying to navigate a difficult corporate office, these ancient steps are the ultimate antidote to modern anxiety. Before we uncover his secret routine, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We explore the timeless wisdom of history's greatest minds to help you build a more disciplined, purposeful life today. The sun begins its slow ascent over the Roman horizon, casting long shadows across the floor of the imperial bedchamber. Inside, Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, lies awake. He's not staring at a smartphone or checking a digital calendar, but he is experiencing a sensation that is universally human, transcending the 2 millennia that separate his world from ours, the heavy, suffocating gravity of the bedsheets. This is not merely a physical struggle against a warm blanket on a cold morning. For the Stoic, the gravity of the bedsheets represents the first and most vital battlefield of the day. It is the initial skirmish in the war between the higher self, the rational mind, and the lower self, the animal instinct. The seduction of comfort. We often view our morning sluggishness as a biological failing or a lack of sleep, but Marcus identified it as a philosophical crisis. To stay in bed is to choose comfort over character. The bed represents safety, warmth, and the absence of conflict. Outside the perimeter of the mattress lies a world that is demanding, unpredictable, and often cruel. In his private journals, Marcus recorded a raw internal dialogue that sounds remarkably like the modern snooze button struggle. He writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work as a human being.' Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm?" The problem is that comfort is a deceptive master. The more we succumb to the gravity of the sheets, the weaker our resolve becomes. By choosing the extra 10 minutes of warmth, we are subconsciously telling ourselves that our immediate physical pleasure is more important than our purpose in the world. The weight of duty versus the weight of the blanket. For an emperor, the stakes were unimaginably high. If Marcus stayed in bed, the machinery of an empire slowed. Petitions went unread, generals waited for orders, and the justice system of Rome stalled. For us, the stakes may feel smaller, but the psychological toll is identical. When we linger in the gravity of the morning, we start our day in a state of avoidance rather than intention. The bedsheets are heavy because they represent the path of least resistance. Nature, Marcus argued, did not intend for humans to be static. Every other creature in the world, the ants, the birds, the spiders, goes about its business, contributing to the order of the cosmos. Why, he asked himself, should a human being be the only creature that demands an exemption from the work of living? The existential paralysis. There is a deeper layer to this gravity. The fear of what the day holds. The bed sheets are only heavy because the world outside is daunting. We stay in bed because subconsciously we are trying to pause time. We know that once our feet hit the floor, the real world begins. We will have to face the difficult boss, the mounting debt, the strained relationship, or the crushing feeling of insignificance. The gravity is actually a form of existential paralysis. We tell ourselves we are just tired, but often we are actually just afraid. We use the warmth of the bed as a shield against the cold reality of our responsibilities. Marcus Aurelius recognized that if he could not defeat this initial pull of gravity, he had no hope of conquering the larger challenges of the empire. If he couldn't even govern his own body's desire for sleep, how could he govern the millions of souls under his rule? The biology of resistance. From a modern psychological perspective, this gravity is what we call resistance. It is the force that prevents us from doing the work that matters most. It is the voice that says tomorrow, or just 5 more minutes. Marcus didn't have a term for dopamine or the circadian rhythm, but he understood the phenomenon perfectly. He knew that the mind would always find a rationalization for laziness. His internal opponent would argue, "But it's nicer here," to which his stoic mind would reply, "So you were born to feel nice, instead of doing things and experiencing them." He realized that human satisfaction does not come from the absence of friction, but from the engagement with it. The gravity of the bedsheets is a test of self-sovereignty. Who is in charge? Is it the body, which only desires warmth and caloric conservation? Or is it the mind, which understands duty, contribution, and virtue? The trap of the perfect morning. Many people fail to beat the gravity of the sheets because they wait for the feeling of motivation to strike. They think that one day they will wake up feeling energized and ready to tackle the world. Marcus knew this was a fallacy. He didn't wait to feel motivated, he relied on logic. The problem is that the bedsheet version of you is the least qualified person to make decisions about your day. When you are horizontal and warm, your perspective is skewed. You are in a state of biological survival, not intellectual thriving. Marcus's solution to the gravity was to remove the choice from the equation entirely. He viewed rising as an objective necessity, as certain as the sun itself, the ripple effect of the first defeat. The true danger of the gravity of the bedsheets is not the lost time. It is the momentum of failure. When you lose the first battle of the day, you set a precedent. You enter the world as a person who has already compromised their principles. You start your day behind the ball, rushing to catch up, acting reactively rather than proactively. Marcus Aurelius understood that to master the empire, he first had to master the 6-foot space of his own bed. The gravity of the sheets is the ultimate metaphor for the distractions and comforts of life that keep us from our true potential. Every morning, we are given a choice: to be a slave to our comforts or to be a master of our purpose. Conclusion of the struggle. The problem isn't the bed, the cold air, or the lack of sleep. The problem is the illusion that comfort equals happiness. Marcus Aurelius's morning routine begins here, at the edge of the mattress, because he knew that if he could break the physical and psychological pull of that gravity, the rest of the day's challenges would be easy by comparison. He taught us that the first step to greatness is simply the act of putting your feet on the floor when everything in your body screams to stay still. It is the victory of the human over the animal. Once Marcus Aurelius defeated the gravity of the bedsheets, he didn't stumble blindly into his imperial duties. He didn't rush to check the latest dispatches from the Germanic frontier or begin barking orders at his servants. Instead, he engaged in a systematic reconstruction of his psyche. For a Stoic, the morning is a laboratory where the soul is tempered for the heat of the day. The exploration of his routine reveals 4 distinct, rigorous steps designed to move the mind from a state of sleepy vulnerability to a state of unshakable objective clarity. Step 1. The view from above, cosmic perspective. The first thing Marcus did upon rising was to expand his field of vision. Most of us wake up and immediately shrink our world. We think about our tight lower back, our full inbox, or the rain hitting the window. Marcus did the opposite. He practiced what modern psychologists call the view from above. He would mentally ascend into the stratosphere, looking down at the city of Rome, then the empire, then the entire earth. He visualized the vast stretches of time, the centuries of people who lived and died before him, and the infinite eons that would follow his own death. Why this was essential? By shrinking his personal life to a tiny point in the universe, he stripped his problems of their power. That looming meeting with a treacherous senator or the threat of a border uprising became insignificant when viewed against the backdrop of eternity. This wasn't about nihilism, it was about proportionality. It allowed him to enter the day with a sense of calm, knowing that no matter what happened, the cosmos would continue its orderly dance. Step 2. The premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. This is perhaps the most famous and misunderstood aspect of the Stoic morning. Before Marcus left his private quarters, he conducted a mental rehearsal of everything that could go wrong. He explicitly told himself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." To the modern ear, this sounds pessimistic, but for Marcus, it was a profound act of optimism through preparation. the mechanics of the exercise. Zero surprise. Most of our anger and stress comes from being surprised by bad behaviour. By expecting a colleague to be rude, Marcus ensured that when the rudeness actually happened, he was ready. He had already spent the emotional energy of the encounter in his mind. The root of evil. He reminded himself that people act poorly out of ignorance. They don't know the difference between good and evil. This shifted his emotion from anger to pity. Immunization. Just as a vaccine introduces a small amount of a virus to build immunity, this exercise introduced a small amount of social stress to his mind, so that his actual peace could not be infected later in the day. Step 3. Intellectual journaling, the conversation with the self. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for publication. The original Greek title was ta eis hiauton, which translates to himself. This was his morning bread. He used a journal to audit his own thoughts and reinforce his philosophical training. He didn't use this time to vent about his feelings or complain about his enemies. Instead, he used it to practice internal rhetoric. He would write down the principles he wanted to live by that day, such as, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. By writing these truths down, he was inking them into his subconscious. He was essentially giving himself a pep talk, but one based on cold logic rather than hollow hype. He was reminding himself that his character, his hegemonikon, ruling faculty, was the only thing he truly owned. Everything else, wealth, health, reputation, was indifferent. Step 4. The commitment to social duty. The final step of the exploration involves the transition from the internal world to the external world. Marcus was a social Stoic. He believed that human beings were political animals created for cooperation. His morning routine concluded with a firm commitment to serve the common good. He would ask himself, what am I going to do today for the community? This step acted as a compass. It ensured that his actions weren't driven by ego or personal gain, but by justice. He viewed himself as a single limb on the body of humanity. If the limb doesn't work for the body, it withers. This gave him a profound sense of why. When you have a clear why for your day, whether it's providing for your family, helping a co-worker, or solving a community problem, the how becomes much easier to bear. The development from routine to character. As we explore these steps, it becomes clear that Marcus's morning was a recalibration of his compass. He understood that the world is like a turbulent sea that constantly knocks a ship off course. If the captain doesn't check the compass every morning, the ship will eventually end up on the rocks. These 4 steps, perspective, preparation, journaling, and duty, transformed a man who was naturally sensitive and perhaps even a bit frail into the marble man of history. He wasn't born with a heart of stone. He built a mind of steel, one morning at a time. This development shows us that Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about replacing irrational, destructive emotions, like fury and panic, with rational, productive ones, like empathy and focus. By the time Marcus Aurelius stepped out of his bedchamber and into the Roman Forum, he was no longer the man who struggled with the blankets. He was the emperor, fully awake, fully armoured, and ready to serve. The modern application. In our world of notifications and instant gratification, this step-by-step exploration offers a radical alternative. It suggests that the most important thing you can do in the morning isn't to get ahead of your emails, but to get ahead of your own mind. If you don't take these steps to arm yourself, the world will choose your mood for you. You will be a puppet of circumstance. But if you follow the emperor's path, you claim the throne of your own life before the coffee is even brewed. The sun is now high over the Palatine Hill. The quiet, reflective sanctuary of the morning has dissolved into the roar of the Roman Empire. Marcus Aurelius stands in the centre of the storm. He is surrounded by petitioners seeking favours, generals demanding resources for the frontier, and advisors whispering about conspiracies. This is the climax, the moment where the morning's philosophical theory meets the day's brutal reality. The true shift in perspective occurs at the exact moment Marcus is confronted by the very thing he prepared for, a difficult human being. Imagine a high-ranking official approaching the emperor. This official is arrogant, perhaps caught in a blatant lie, or perhaps he is treating a subordinate with unnecessary cruelty. In this moment, The natural human response, the animal response, is to react with indignation, anger, or a desire to crush the offender with imperial power. But for Marcus, this is the moment of the great shift. The internal pivot, from victim to observer. In the heat of the confrontation, Marcus triggers the key moment of Stoic discipline. He doesn't see a villain to be defeated, he sees a confused soul to be understood. He executes a mental pivot that is the climax of his entire belief system. He reminds himself, "I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil. I cannot be angry with my kinsman, nor hate him. We were born to work together. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate expression of power. Most people are moved by their environment. If someone yells at them, they yell back. They are puppets whose strings are pulled by the behavior of others." Marcus's climax is the moment he cuts the strings. He realizes that while he cannot control the official's arrogance, he has absolute sovereignty over his own reaction. This shift moves him from being a victim of the world's chaos to being the master of his own internal peace. The realization of kinship. The climax reaches its peak when Marcus applies the logic of kinship. He looks at the meddling, dishonest person before him and recognizes a shared biological and rational origin. He doesn't see an other, he sees a broken part of the same body of humanity. He reasons that if a hand strikes the eye does not strike back in anger. Both belong to the same body and must work together for the body to survive. This shift in perspective is the aha moment of the Stoic life. It transforms every annoyance into an opportunity to practice virtue. Every rude comment becomes a training weight for his patience. Every betrayal becomes a chance to practice forgiveness. The dissolution of harm. The most radical part of this climax is Marcus's rejection of the concept of harm. He realizes that no one can actually hurt him unless they damage his character. If someone steals his money, his character is intact. If someone lies about him, his character is intact. Only if he responds with anger or malice does he sustain harm, because he has allowed his own virtue to be corrupted. This is the psychological key moment. It is the total inversion of how most of us live. We spend our lives trying to protect our reputations, our bank accounts, and our egos. Marcus realizes that none of those things are you. The only you is your ability to choose a rational response. When he makes this shift, the weight of the empire suddenly feels light. The chaos of Rome hasn't changed, but the mind perceiving it has. The climax of the now. There is a secondary shift that occurs in this climax. The collapse of time into the present moment. In the midst of the day's stress, Marcus reminds himself that he is not carrying the weight of the past or the anxiety of the future. He is only dealing with what is right in front of him. He realizes that the present is the only thing any human being can actually possess, and the only thing they can lose. By narrowing his focus to the now, he eliminates the overwhelming scale of his responsibilities. He isn't managing an empire, he's simply making a just decision in this moment. This radical presence is the climax of Stoic mindfulness, the transformation of the world. Because of this shift, the Emperor's world undergoes a visual and emotional transformation. The noisy forum becomes a laboratory, the difficult people become teachers. The physical pain he often felt, chronic stomach and chest issues, becomes a neutral sensation rather than a tragedy. This is the climax, because it represents the total victory of the morning routine. The armour he put on in the dim light of dawn has successfully repelled the arrows of the day. He has reached a state of ataraxia, unshakable tranquility. The climax concludes with the realization that the world is exactly as it should be. The problem was never the world. The problem was the lens through which he saw it. By shifting that lens, Marcus Aurelius doesn't just survive the day, he redeems it. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations to be a bestseller, he wrote them to survive. His morning routine provides a timeless blueprint for anyone drowning in the noise of the modern world. It is a system designed to move the individual from reactive chaos to proactive stillness. The blueprint for sanity can be distilled into 3 core pillars. 1. Discipline over comfort. The day begins by rejecting the gravity of the sheets. By winning the first battle against the snooze button, you prove to yourself that your rational mind, not your physical impulses, is in command. 2. Logic over emotion. Through the premeditatio malorum and the view from above, you strip away the drama of daily life. You stop being surprised by bad behaviour and start seeing it as natural, albeit misguided part of the human experience. 3. Character over circumstance. The ultimate realization is that your happiness is a choice. Marcus believed that while you cannot control what happens to you, you have absolute power over how you interpret those events. By following these steps, you don't just get through your day, you master it. You transform your morning from a frantic rush into a sacred ritual of mental fortification. As Marcus himself summarized, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. Now it's time to take these scrolls of wisdom and turn them into your own marble foundation. The Emperor's routine wasn't a suggestion, it was a survival strategy. Tomorrow morning, you have a choice. Will you be a slave to the gravity of your sheets, or will you rise to do a human being's work? Join our community of modern Stoics by subscribing now. We release weekly deep dives to help you build unshakable mental armor. Your challenge? Leave a comment below with the one meddling person or task you're going to handle with Stoic calm tomorrow. Let's hold each other accountable.